touching on the top prop bets in the NBA today. All right, so looking at the board for today, this is going to be a typical Monday board where it's very tight. Right now, it's looking like a day in which we're probably not going to have that much exposure on PrizePicks. Now, there are a couple NHL bets as it sits right now that are popping up, like literally 2 college basketball props, and then some okay kind of game theory NBA props. And we'll get into that. So we'll start with the NHL props. And yesterday, we got lucky with the bet of the day. Finally, some good luck instead of some bad beats. Bergeron was a DNP, which meant that ended up being a refunded bet of the day. The 2 hockey props that actually got bumped throughout the day ended up missing. So it felt good to finally get lucky. No perfect week of 7 straight days of profit, but we'll take 6 out of 7 with the 7th day being a lucky break even. So just sorting by NHL props here to start with, we can see we are getting 3 bets, really 4. Well, there we go. Got to click off of college. We got 3 bets here that are really favorable. We got 3 bets that are minus 139 or better to get over 2.5 shots on goal to start the day. Remember, this is on average across the sports books. We have no under bets. See, this is what's crazy about PrizePicks and the NHL props now, is that if there's any bet that seems to be one in which they are losing an edge, they just automatically will bump it up. So I do expect these ones to probably get bumped throughout the day. And let's just look at these on DraftKings Sportsbook real quick as well. So Joel Eriksson, we saw on average was about minus 139 to get over 2.5 shots on goal. DraftKings Sportsbook has it set at minus 135. Same thing with Alex here, and then same thing with Jared as well. So they're all about minus 135 on DraftKings Sportsbook. But once again, on average across the sportsbook, we're getting pretty favorable odds. I'm perfectly fine just betting those because we know in the long term, if we're getting bets that are minus 137 or better, it's going to pay off in the long term on average, because that's where we're getting an edge on PrizePicks. So if you want to make those bets, by all means, go for it. Or if you feel like you have a strong lock bet elsewhere and you just want to put in a favorable line with that, you can do that as well, knowing that you need 2 out of 3 to hit or something like that. Be fine with that as well. So now let's get into the college basketball side here. The only Big Ten team left playing is my Wisconsin Badgers. Don't mind that CNIT. Geez, Big Ten basketball. Crazy, really, March Madness in general. It's funny about the teams in the Final Four. I would say any one of them individually, maybe except for Miami, any one of them but Miami, like you could have maybe put them into the Final Four, but to do all of them would have just been stupid, which is kind of crazy about this Final Four. But looking at, yes, we have 2 kind of favorable bets for the Badgers. Connor here, 3.5 rebounds. That does seem low. And I'm not sure how much you guys will put into social media and whatnot, playing a little bit role in motivation, but he has been someone during this NIT tournament. His social media has kind of taken off. He was on ESPN one day. So it does seem like he's just playing a little bit harder, but we can see he's been over 3.5 rebounds a bunch. Wouldn't be shocking to see him do that again. And for what it's worth, Max as well. He's been getting a little bit more run. His rebounds is at 2.5 as well. So they all kind of seem a little bit too low for the Badgers. Probably not doing Tyler Wall. Could do Crawl. Like it does seem like there's a slight game stacking opportunity here just in general. And it really just depends on how these teams are shooting the basketball. Badgers aren't that good of a shooting team, so thus we see why they've been getting the rebounds. And that's kind of it. I mean, we're getting one decent one here with Latre. The average sportsbook line has this point set at 15.5 with the over favorite at minus 111, which is okay. Not the best, but good enough if you want to try to make that bet as well. But if you look at his last 5 games, hasn't been able to get the over. So let's go ahead and pivot into NBA DFS. So yesterday, in terms of like NBA, it was pretty solid. The stack that I gave out for Charlotte ended up hitting. I took it one step too far and put Kyrie into it, so I only doubled up with it. But I did mention that Dennis Smith Jr. over 3s, 0.5 threes was kind of the way to go, but you're much better off using that bet on DraftKings Sportsbook or any sportsbook instead of PrizePicks. But looking at it, guys, I kind of bring that up because that game was projected to be a blowout, and that was kind of the risk associated with that, is that, Charlotte ended up winning it, but they were projected to get blown out. So I just kind of want to pull that up because we have 1, 2, 3 games on the 7-game slate that are projected to be blowouts. And really, I would say Utah, we're waiting on some injury news for Markkanen, see if he's going to be active. If he is ruled out, I expect this line to go more favored towards the Suns, probably 8.5. So then half the games would be games that could potentially be blowouts. That's a little bit tougher to predict. And with that being said as well, we don't have the full allotment of the games just yet. So like looking at it, we got a bunch there. It would seem like Portland is going to be a team in which we're going to have a lot of value potentially on the board. And Sharp was one that I don't want to say looked like a free square, as the day progressed. Don't ever really want to use that terminology, but going against the Thunder, his points, rebounds, and assist prop was very low. And it's kind of because he turns the ball over too much that I would probably rather just do points, rebounds, and assists with him. So I'm very interested to see where his line comes out today because it could be a very favorable one. And then for what it's worth, like these top 4 players are all projected to sit, and Wofford as well. So I'm curious to see like where we're going to get maybe. So like someone like Drew could be a very favorable bet to go with today. Now I would look at the per 36 numbers. We just don't have that big of a sample size with the top 4 players for Portland being out. So it's kind of not worthwhile, but we can just see like he has been productive lately when he's gotten the minutes. So I want to see where his prop is going to be as well. And then lastly, like someone like Nazir Little could potentially start as well, who recently he has been productive in limited minutes. I'm kind of just bringing this up because it does seem like we could potentially have a tiny stacking opportunity in this game, depending on the value. Now that game most likely will be a blowout, but if Portland's going to be without 4 of their starters, well, they're kind of just going to be forced into giving the starters for this game more additional run. And another reason why I'm bringing that up is because if we look at where some of the prop discrepancies that we're getting, it's going to be in that game. Okay, not a big edge here, but the average sportsbook line has Brandon Ingram's points at 26.67, favorite at -122. PrizePicks has it set at 26.5. Decent one there. And then if we just sort it by the biggest prop line difference, we'll see that we're getting CJ McCollum over 31.2 points, rebounds, and assists. Now this is kind of favored as a push, but that's a pretty big edge that we're getting there. So it does seem like there could be a slight edge in stacking that game. So with that as well, we are waiting on news, or really the props for the rest of the Dallas Mavericks, because Luka Doncic has been ruled out tonight. And so if we look at the per 36 production with Luka out and Kyrie on the court, Kyrie does go off. He averages 26.5 points per 36, 4.3 rebounds, and 6.3 assists. So in actuality, this number is probably a little bit too high. But the reason why it's a little bit too high is going to be the fact that they have a matchup with the Pacers, which should be a high scoring game, should be an easy game for Kyrie to get there. This number for Reggie Bullock's definitely interesting as well. He averages 12 points per 36, 5.5 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. He has the 5th most minutes with Luka off the court. It goes Kyrie, Hardaway, Christian Wood, which is shocking, Josh Green. And so if we look at him, like the minutes have been there for Reggie Bullock, just not the best player. Like I don't love betting on players like this, but it does seem like we'd be getting a favorable line there for points, rebounds, and assists. And obviously, that's the only other Dallas Maverick prop that we have. I'd love to see the rest of them to give a better educated decision on if we should be like playing one. Right now, it does feel like we'd slightly be forcing that in there. Another bit of news that we are waiting on is Miles Turner. Is he going to play? And if he sits, it's kind of strange. We actually get Benedict Mathurin getting the most minutes with Miles Turner off the court, then TJ McConnell, then Isaiah Jackson, which is kind of strange to me. But we're just waiting on injury news as a whole for this team, so don't really have any props to go in on there. And that's why I'm bringing this up. The biggest issue on today's slate is the fact that there's so many injury situations that we're waiting on. Like Detroit is so banged up, it's tough to say like, oh, we need to be playing Killian Hayes or Jaden Ivey, especially against the Bucks where it should be a game that's a blowout. Now Giannis is currently a game time decision. Maybe just because this game is projected to be a blowout, maybe they choose to sit him. Thus, all the other Bucks would be really favorable. And I will say Brook Lopez here is definitely interesting. You look at that game against Denver, he got into foul trouble. Okay, he had 4 fouls in that game, and he only had 20 minutes. Okay, he hasn't really gotten any minutes recently at all, just because, well, they've had 3 straight games that have been blowouts. And this game should be a blowout as well. But it could be a blowout in the favor of the Bucks, obviously. And so I think against Detroit especially, he should be able to get there. This is a very low number. If you look at it on the season, they basically have this set at his season average, which is not adjusting for the matchup. So a pretty good line there to me on paper. And then lastly as well, with the Clippers, we are waiting on news on Kawhi Leonard. We know that Paul George is going to be out, and that Norman Powell are going to be out as well. So if Kawhi is ruled out, then someone like Westbrook probably going to step up into a higher usage role. He has been brutal, really, in terms of production with the Clippers since he's signed there. So it does make that one more difficult as well. So with that, we can kind of see why we are getting these props that, I mean, look at this. The overbets that we're getting here, literally the top, 8 or so are all pretty much correct. There's no edge with there. The underbets that we're getting, really nothing that we should be going with. And so we look at where we're getting the biggest edges on the slate. It seems like it's Kawhi Leonard, points and rebounds. So if we look at Kawhi's per 36 production with Paul George and Norman Powell off the court, while also adding in Russell Westbrook on the court, It's a very small sample size, but Kawhi averages 20 points per 36 and 6.4 rebounds. Now, that's only a 56-minute sample size, so let's just try to take Russell Westbrook off of that. And then we see Kawhi Leonard's per 36 production shoot up to 27 points per 36 and 6.2 rebounds. So kind of tight, but at the same time, he has been playing more minutes recently, on the season, still averaging 33.63. Lately, he's been playing 37, 38 minutes. So if we look at those per 36 numbers, we should actually be bumping them a little bit. So really, the best bet that we're getting with Kawhi would simply just be points and rebounds, but we can see recently just been a little bit under that as well. But yeah, I mean, as long as he gets, let's just say 38 minutes, we can see this game was a blowout against OKC. That makes sense. This game against the Pelicans was a blowout as well. Let's take a peek at the game over and under here. It's projected to stay close. So we should be able to accurately say that Kawhi should be able to get around 38 minutes or so. So thus, the points and rebounds would make sense here. Oh, and we are seeing that Reggie Bullock's points and rebounds and assists is actually a decent one that we can go with. Basically a push, but it's a push at 16. So we're getting a decent edge there. Another decent one would be Brandon Ingram over points. The line is set at 27 across the sportsbook. So we can see he's slightly favored at minus 115 to get the over. We continue on. We got DeMar DeRozan. His line is set at 32. Average sportsbook over odds are minus 116, so another favorable one there. So we are getting some slight edges as it stands right now, but really not any awesome bets that are out there. And then really the only good under bet is Aaron Gordon under 14 points. Average PrizePicks line is set at 14.5, basically a push. So no bet of the day. It's not there just yet. I do think we have some, good NBA bets that I touched on. I would say that Kawhi Leonard points and rebounds is a good one. We could roll with some of those NHL props I mentioned that are, favorable. We do have a little slight stacking opportunity with the Wisconsin college basketball game. And we might have a stacking opportunity with Portland as well, like I mentioned. Just kind of waiting for those props to come out. Don't exactly know when those are going to come out, but we could do Brandon Ingram over points and then CJ McCollum over points, rebounds, and assists for that Portland stack. And that's probably going to be the route that I go, is just do maybe 3 different game stacks, one with college basketball and then probably 2 in NBA today. But that's it, guys. I wish I could give a bet of the day, but it doesn't seem like we really have a strong bet. I do like those. On average, those NHL bets are going to hit more times than they don't. If you just want to roll with those today, you can. But remember, before you place that prop bet, just make sure to check the line. Make sure it's still kind of accurate, because that does adjust throughout the day the most. But Mondays, they're tight. The lines are tight. And it's just kind of one of those days, typically speaking, where we're coming off of a good weekend, which we are. And it just makes sense to kind of save our bankroll for Taco Tuesday, because we know that's kind of favorable. All right, that's all for today's video. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.